All right, so at 6 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I do need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to announcements. Do we have announcements? Okay. I do believe that I saw that Timberlake Cheer has done quite successful. They're going to state. Is that accurate?
I don't know.
All right, then.
You heard something I haven't heard yet. I've been meetings all day, so.
Okay.
The Timberlake girls basketball team is at state and they have a game tomorrow. Yep. So good luck.
I think the cheer has done something. And I believe wrestling's at district, which is why Trustee Quimby is not here at the moment. So we'll go ahead and I also want to remind everyone that these are our board meetings. There are business meetings that are held in public. They are not public board meetings. The board is governed by Idaho Code Title 74 and Title 33, Chapter 5, Idaho Administrative Procedures Act, or IDAPA, and we do follow district policies. The time for public input is provided for the public to express themselves to the board. It is not a time to engage with the board, nor is it a time for question and answers. The board, in its discretion, may ask clarifying questions to ensure it understands the input provided. However, no discussions or conversations take place. All public input will be civil and respectful, address the board, not the audience, and address issues, not persons. Each person will have a 3-minute time limit for their input, and the audience shall refrain from applause, snickers, whispers, and quiet comments, etc. Moving on from that, I know we have one person for public comment. Is there any other public input that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
I have.
You do? Did you sign in for? Is the sign-in sheet out?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't see it.
That's okay. Can we get you to sign in real quick? You, Maria, can you help her get that accomplished? Okay, and then while she's signing in, Anna Schnepp.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Dear Superintendent Arnold and School Board Trustees, besides being a mother to our 3 children, being an Idaho public school teacher has been the greatest honor of my life. Therefore, it was with mixed emotions that I announced my intent to retire at the conclusion of this school year. I have served as an Idaho public school teacher since 1988, 33 of them here in the Lakeland School District. I am incredibly grateful and proud to have served the Lakeland School District community, especially in the role as the principal of John Brown Elementary these past 7 years. Being a Lakeland teacher has not just been a job for me, it's been my life's mission to improve the lives of our community's children, to afford them an opportunity to access quality education that nurtures the whole child. I have worked with awesome staff, colleagues, students, and families. Together, we built a dynamic school district that prepared our children for unlimited success. Our 3 children attended Lakeland School District from kindergarten through high school. They have college diplomas and are thriving in the creative fields of filmmaking, advertising, interior architecture. Lakeland prepared them for this success. The reason for my mixed emotions is my deep concern for Lakeland's ability to continue to provide a quality education that prepares our community's children for the level of success that my 3 children enjoy. A part of me wants to stay and continue to fulfill my mission to affect the education that the community's children receive, the quality of that education, but I can't. Therefore, I beseech you all to vigorously advocate for our community's children. In my experience, what is best for children is usually 99% what is best for the staff. I encourage you to trust our educators. Their hearts are for children. I don't understand why some in the Lakeland community and even on this board do not seem to understand that teachers and school staff are some of the most altruistic people on the planet. Their greatest hope is to see their own children thrive and achieve academic success, plus their students' academic success. None of us became educators to get rich. Our greatest hopes include making a living wage that allows us to buy a home in the community we work in and to raise our children in a safe and caring community. We invested ourselves here and helped to create the best school district in the state. It is heartbreaking to witness the crumbling of our great school district before my very eyes because of fear and suspicion. Some folks assumed the worst about our school leaders, teachers, and staff and decided that we were going to fix the system even though it wasn't broken. Far from broken, it was a model of top-notch education run on a common-sense budget by outstanding educators and staff. Now we stand on a cliff. All that was great about our district is potentially gone if the supplemental levy does not pass in May. It doesn't have to be this way. It is our responsibility as community elders to provide our children an education that best allows them to become productive and responsible citizens. We do this by sustaining a school system that supports the whole child with what they need to reach their full potential. For some children, this means providing sports programs. For others, it's the opportunity to hone their interests in computer science, music, art, or food science, whatever it may be. Some children need mental health supports. Others need to be nourished by reading books of their own choosing. Some children desire to be leaders and exchange ideas and debate with students from other schools. Lakeland's children deserve a robust and dynamic school system that provides them all these opportunities and more. Please do the right thing. Trust educators to rebuild our school district to the great stature it once held in this state. Please get out and vote for our advocate for our children by manning informational tables in front of Super One, in front of Apple or after them. Actively make the case to those who voted no in November. Educate our patrons about K-12 funding. Fight for our kids. Being the principal of John Brown Elementary has been the hardest job I've ever loved. My wise older friends advise me that life's too short to continue in this ever-increasing stressful job. It's time for me to bow out and pray that Lakeland can continue the legacy of quality education I've been a part of these 33 years, and I will pray for all of you to restore Lakeland School District back to greatness with respect and hope.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, so we have Carrie Paquette.
Members of the board, my name is Carrie Paquette, and this is my 8th year as the College and Career Advisor at Lakeland High School. Today's agenda includes funding for my position, and I have some things I'd like to share. In 2015, the Governor's Task Force identified proper college and career advising as one of the key factors for student success, stating students and parents are entitled to better information on these opportunities. Subsequently, Idaho Code 33-1212A was enacted, and the legislature provided specific state funding to districts to expand or develop new college and career advising programs beginning in 2016. Our district has had college and career advisors at Timberlake and Lakeland since, and receives this funding each year based on enrollment. We received $130,748 last year and $120,720 this year. The language in sections 1 and 3 of the legislation state that college and career advising is essential and requires trained personnel so students can be college and career ready upon graduation. While there is some flexibility in implementation, the inclusion in Section 2 of specific roles like college and career advisors indicates this funding should not be absorbed into existing counseling services, but instead used for dedicated personnel focused on this work. In the FAQs from the State Board of Education in 2016, it asks, can the dollars be used to support existing college and career advising or mentoring programs? The State Board's response was, The intent of the funding is to expand existing programs or establish new programs and is not to be used for supplanting resources that are currently supporting guidance counseling, college and career advising, or mentoring programs. Idaho continues to prioritize this dedicated advising. In Governor Little's 2025 budget highlights, he recommended to double funding for college and career advisors to strengthen advising for all high school students. This prioritization and his direct reference to college and career advisors aligns with the intent of the legislation. College and career advisors in high schools are a common and accepted practice across the state and in Region 1, from Coeur d'Alene to Sandpoint, Moscow, Lakeland, and Post Falls, who all have a dedicated college and career advisor in addition to counselors, since these are not interchangeable roles. Counselors already exceeding the recommended ratio and managing full caseloads cannot take on the full-time work of a college and career advisor, which requires dedicated expertise, continuous training, and state-mandated professional development to ensure students receive the guidance and opportunities this funding was designated to provide, and that Lakeland families have come to expect and rely on. I encourage the board to honor the intent of this funding and ensure that Lakeland students receive the full benefit of this state investment in their futures. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know you can access it online, but I have printed out the legislation if you'd like to have it.
We can attach it to the minutes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any more public input? Okay, moving on. To reports, the financial report is up first. Do we have any questions, comments, discussions? No? Okay. We have class size review.
There are, when the links were converted, Spirit Lake Elementary's numbers are not in the bottom. We noticed that today. We were going through.
Well, if you click on the link, they are on
Right.
the spreadsheet.
For you
so-
guys, but for the community, the PDF is,
Okay.
it's just missing that one.
And you've chosen to go with these increased class sizes because it's now too late to bring on additional teachers, is that correct?
Well, that and so if you look at third grade is probably the grade level I would be most concerned about with the 29, but because we're where we are in the school year, it doesn't make sense to take kids who bonded with their class and their teachers for the first 2/3 of the year and then to bring somebody new on. But at the 5th grade levels, where we have a couple of class sizes where we're at about 29, that doesn't make any sense, even if we were at the beginning of the year, to add a teacher there and have class sizes of 18 for 5th grade. They're much more independent, and so this is just part of having small neighborhood schools. We're going to have bubble class sizes, and so, but at this point in the school year, yeah, I would not recommend that we're hiring teachers to cover.
Yeah, you're going to encounter that problem occasionally, regardless of the size of the school.
I am curious, at LMS, the librarian has 2 periods that she's teaching. What is she teaching?
She does their little news broadcast,
Okay.
and I'm not sure what the other. She does 6th grade library skills.
Okay.
If you look at Lakeland High School, Colleen Babakwa has one of her classes has 36 kids in it. But that's her dual credit U.S. history class. And so I did touch base with Mr. Hoffman today, and he said there's not a problem with that number at this point. So.
Okay. I believe I noticed there was 1 or 2 teachers that didn't have a prep period.
We have at Lakeland High School, I think we have a couple of teachers who are teaching on their prep, so we needed 1 more section of a science and I believe a math. And so we didn't need to hire a full person, but we just paid them to teach on the prep.
Okay. Any other input or comment on classroom sizes?
No,
This is
overall,
awesome.
they look really good.
Yeah, this is good to see. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the previous meeting, the minutes of the subcommittee meetings, and the HR items, and the regular and special bills. Any comments on the minutes of the previous meeting? Nope. My only comment on the subcommittee meetings is under long-range planning. There's 2 meetings that are all run together. Can we separate those out so that, and maybe identify them by date, just so that if someone's looking through, they can see that there's 2 meetings? Okay. Other than that, I don't have any other comments. Anything on the HR items?
I think so.
There was one resignation that I would like to address in executive session.
Okay.
Moving on to the regular and special bills, unless there's any comments for, okay. I do have some questions. I noticed that we have athletic trainer supplies, and then I thought those were being paid by Northwest Specialty
We
Hospital.
get reimbursed.
We get reimbursed?
Yep.
Okay.
So we pay it and then we invoice them and they reimburse us.
Okay. And I thought the mentor stipends were 500. Is that not accurate?
It is.
So we have a-
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at 109943. It's a mentor for new teacher at Garwood Elementary for
Oh.
$750.
So that's a consulting fee. So we had
Okay.
a teacher that Mr. Massey really needed some intensive one-on-one time with, and so that is a retired teacher from Garwood who came in
Okay.
and did some consulting for us with that teacher.
The assistance with medication courses, is that for nurses?
Admin assistants
Okay.
give medication out that parents bring in with a prescription, and in order for them to be able to do that, they have to have training. So
Okay.
there's a training that they take.
The food supplies for the homeless and the gas cards for the homeless?
We laughed about that a little bit today. It's not for the homeless. So we have McKinney Bento dollars for our students whose families are homeless.
Okay.
And so sometimes our transportation department will drive a bus to the women's shelter in Fort Lane, for example, to pick kids up and bring them here. Sometimes parents don't need that level of service, but they just need a little help with the gas, so we give a gas card.
Okay.
And so those are for our families who are currently experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
So we talked about making sure that we are making the description a little bit more accurate.
That would be great.
Yes. By the time we noticed it today when we went through it, it was too late to fix it.
Not a problem. All right, those were my questions. Does anybody have any other?
I noticed we purchased a fingerprint scanner for a sizable amount of money. Can we get some information on that?
So we have one fingerprint scanner that we've had for quite a while, and it will eventually not work anymore. But because of our new policy with the the law saying now that all of our volunteers have to also be fingerprinted, we had so many people coming in to be fingerprinted that we needed one more device. So when the one that we have fails, we have the new one, but we ordered another one. They get used on a daily basis very regularly.
What's the lifespan?
It could be anywhere between 5 and 7 years, and we're on our 5th year on this one.
So you take that amount of money amortized over 5 or 7 years, and here's your annual cost.
Mm-hmm.
But we have hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that have been coming through the office to get their fingerprints done. So on top of our just regular hires.
That's the only question I have.
Okay. Any from you?
No.
Okay. Any other questions on the bill breakout or utility bills? No?
No, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Can I be, sorry.
Go ahead.
I do want to point out on the utility bills, we're seeing a much larger than is typical water usage at Lakeland Middle School again that Mr. Haig has been working to try to track down and find. And so I'll remind you, it's probably been 2 years maybe where we had that pipe that was broken.
Right.
Yeah.
We believe that it's that same pipe.
Same problem.
Okay.
So they're hoping.
Which side of the meter is it on?
It's on our side.
Oh, good.
So
I have
The city's been
personal
out.
information on that.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's just,
so
I asked Chris.
Yeah, and Chris did come out and meet with me, and we walked the lines and checked everything. We've had leak detection out, so it does appear, well, it is on our side because it's clocking up numbers.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out. We are looking at it. And Tim shared today that the asphalt where that is on the backside of Lakeland Middle School is starting to sag.
Yeah. Do we know who repaired it before? I mean,
Yilkums,
Okay. Was there any form of warranty on the repair work?
it's been 2 years.
Okay.
It's our aging system,
Okay.
but it's 6 feet down. So we're gonna have to dig that up, and I think we're gonna do it over spring break where we don't have a lot of bus traffic.
Right. Okay.
The ground's frozen right now.
And it's
Right, so
frozen.
yeah, it's, and water leaking into it isn't gonna.
So we had a motion. Bob, did you second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the old business, we have the follow-up from the superintendent. Okay. Any input for the superintendent on her follow-up? Okay.
No.
We have the financial follow-up.
It's not as long when we only go 2 weeks between seeing each other.
So now that we have the financial follow-up, the STEM charter busing, I would like to request the same information for each of the high schools and junior highs for what they are paying back for their trips to state or whatever.
We are changing that formula because we have been given inaccurate information. So we're actually going to be refunding back to the schools some of the money that has been
When you
paid
say we
for-
had been given inaccurate information, what do you mean by that?
It would be helpful if Jessica was here, but our transportation director had received information from the state that that there was for the non-reimbursable trips
Yellow bus.
that those kind of took away from the reimbursables, and that's not accurate. So she was using the state reimbursement formula for all of those trips, but that isn't accurate. And so Chelsea did a lot of research. We met with Jessica last week, and so we have the new formula is much less than what we had been charging. So it's more in line with what Post-Falls and Coeur d'Alene are doing. But we can bring that. So
I would still like to see.
I am going to have to go through because...
Please introduce yourself.
Sorry. Chelsea Pursley, accounting specialist. So I am going to have to go through line by line on trips because the way we were billing it before did not include driver hours. It was kind of just a $4.06 per mile plus a $25 bus fee was how we were billing back to the schools. And now we are going by mile and the hours for the driver. The hours for the driver are not on the original spreadsheet, so I'm going to have to go back trip by trip and add all of that in for the whole year. Don't know if I'll have it by next meeting.
We don't keep records of what we billed to the school, like what was originally billed to the
I
schools.
do have the original billing.
That's what I'm
Okay,
wanting.
yes, yeah, I have all of the original stuff.
Right.
And that will be, what I'm going to do is reverse the journal entry that I did to charge those schools. And then I will be redoing the whole year. So what I'll show you will not be an actual reflection of what they're going to be charged
For this year.
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah, she's
So
going to go
everything
back.
is retroactive back to the beginning of the year. What I'd be interested in seeing is how much the refund is per school.
Refund per school.
Mhm.
So do you want maybe just what what was billed out originally compared to what we're going to be doing and the difference between those two then?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Any other conversation on the financial follow-up?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, moving into new business, we have board policy. We have board policy 9100. This policy was brought before the board back in November, and I believe it was Trustee Bain that wanted the language, wanted us to, the committee to go through the language because it had been brought by the CFO, because it was not very clear. So we did go through it, and I believe the dilemma is the fact that within policy 9100, it gives a cap of $25,000 on, where was that? On the, where is it? I'm sorry.
Non-real property.
Well, it's on real or personal property, that if it's $25,000 or more, then it would come before the board. However, within our policy that we did recently, 7400, the miscellaneous procurement standards, when that was brought forward, the CFO asked that we raise that to $50,000.
Right.
So she came to one of the meetings and she asked that we change that to $50,000. But because the policy itself was specific to $25,000, I was not just going to change that. I figured the board could have discussion over that. Jessica, the CFO, was fairly adamant that she believes $25,000 limitation is very binding and cumbersome, which is why she would like it to go to $50,000. But given our current financial state, I don't know if bringing it back down to $25,000 on policy 7400 is the more appropriate way to go, just for better oversight. Jessica, I would like to say, really wanted to be here to advocate for the $50,000 increase from 25. But given that this policy came before this board back in November and we asked for it to be revised and it's taken this long due to other policies that took precedent, I went ahead and brought it this week.
So,
Go ahead.
So one scenario, that kind of I think highlights why she's asking for the $50,000 is if we have a situation where we have our boilers go out, for example, in our schools, to have to wait to get to a special meeting or a school board meeting to pay to get that replaced, which could be more than the $25,000. Becomes it's the time element. So yeah. So and I don't know if there's a way to write that so that in an emergency situation there's
That's
a different way.
what I think is more appropriate is to put a caveat that if it is an emergency situation that and it's going to be a significant cost loss to the district by not taking care of something sooner rather than increasing it. I think we should bring the other one back down to 25,000. Just
Okay.
even if it's just.
Well, given our financial situation, I think it might behoove us to be a little bit more cautious than.
I would agree, as long as there's a caveat in there. And then I would expect that if that were the case, there would be notification to the board that this is a situation, this is going to be the cost, and I would bring it then to the next board meeting for your approval retroactively.
Yeah, so you're going to need some language there. Who's authorized to declare an emergency under what kind of
The
circumstances?
superintendent. The superintendent and only the superintendent.
When does the reporting have to take place
Yeah.
and some of that kind of stuff?
Okay. Go ahead.
Did you just declare an emergency?
Board meeting's over. 6 o'clock, earliest one. My recommendation, just from a system standpoint, is we need to bring both 7,400 and 9,100. We could bring it back to policy, write that verbiage, because right now they're conflicting, so we just need to write what we're going to say, but whatever we match those two, and then we can bring it back at the next board meeting so that everybody, instead of, can we just table and then bring it back to policy and then fix that and put that emergency caveat and whatever procedures are going to be attached to that. But you guys did just approve 7,400 in November, but just because they are conflicting now, we just bring them both. That would be my recommendation from the policy committee.
Fix it.
I would agree, and I also on this one I was
Which one?
on the 9,100.
Okay.
The appraisal, that it has to be appraised. Who's appraising? Like,
That was just in the policy. So what specificity would you want?
Well, for real property, that needs to be a certified appraiser.
right.
Okay. So we can clarify it being
I think that
certified.
should, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I guess that one is by an appraiser certified in the state of Idaho. Oh, where did I see it that it was not? Maybe that was in the old.
Personal property is in that whole different ball of wax.
Yeah, I think it was-
Supposing somebody wants to donate a grand piano that's worth $3,500, appraise that kind of thing.
Right, and that was the conveyance of that's where it was, is in the conveyance of property. Within 1 year prior to conveyance, all real and personal property with an estimated value of $1,000 or greater shall be appraised. Who's making the determination if it has an estimated value of $1,000 or more? And at what level of appraisal do we need to have? We definitely shouldn't be spending $2,000 for an appraiser to
say this is
tell
worth
us.
$1,000.
Yeah, so and
So how should that be
I'm
rewritten?
not sure.
Okay. Because I believe, Well, we can review it against
Yeah.
the statute to see if the statute's requiring.
Yeah, it might be. I
Yeah.
don't know if it would be someone who's knowledgeable with the type of personal property it
Mhm.
is or something of that sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And I can look and
clarification.
see what I can find also to go along with that, and I'll pass that along to the policy committee.
That'd be great.
Okay.
All right, so then I move to table Board Policy 9100 for further clarification, along with Policy 7400 modifications.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, moving on to the operational plan. Yay, this is the last one we have to do. It is. I would like to not change and remove COVID because this operational plan has gotten us through COVID. However, I did like the parent suggestion that we have an operational plan for contagious disease. So potentially just making a new one upon this one's expiration.
Perfect.
For
So
contagious
leave- So leave
disease.
this as
As
a COVID operation.
Correct, because
Okay.
that's what it was for, and then we can adopt our own for contagious disease. That would be my recommendation. So I'll make a motion to approve the LJSD operational plan as presented with changing contagious disease back to COVID.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to valedictorian and salutatorian, I can never say. Salutatorians to those lists. Do we have any conversation on this?
I did appreciate Mr. Hoffman's explanation for the board as a reminder that we are working our way to a shorter list.
Yes. And I believe that's supposed to go into effect next year, but I'm not positive on that.
Well, class of 2028.
Okay.
I thought the same thing. I thought
it was
that
only
was
one more
what they
year,
were going to
but-
do was
Yeah.
that the freshmen last year and then going forward from there.
Right. Do we need to have any conversation?
Move to approve.
I will second, and I'd like to congratulate all valedictorian and salutatorian.
Significant accomplishment.
Yes.
It is huge.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the spring athletic schedules.
Move to approve.
Second.
Quick question on these. Do we, is this the complete list or will there be more coming?
As far as I am aware, this is the complete list.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the organizational chart. Do we have any comment or conversations that need to be had on the organizational chart?
Nope, I do not.
I do that.
Do you have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Great work
opposed?
on whoever worked on that.
That was
They're
Rebecca.
kind of hard to do. They're not. This was fun.
There, she did a really good job. It's very clean looking.
Motion carried. Prom dates and venues.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the levy ballot resolution or ballot language. Again, as I stated prior to the start of the meeting, my only concern is it was stressed that it wasn't clear on the previous ballot language what anything was. And the co-curricular and athletic activities is 2 paragraphs. I would really like the paragraphs to be delineated in the sense of co-curricular, maintain existing high school co-curricular activities. I realize it seems redundant, but I believe that makes it very clear. And then athletics, maintain existing high school and middle school athletic activities, simply to draw attention to the fact that these are specifics. That's my recommendation. Other than that, I just...
Sorry, can I just clarify? Because
Yeah.
are you just, so where the bolded header is, you want just co-curricular and then
No,
athletic?
you can keep that co-curricular and athletics, but
Okay.
then when you come down to the first paragraph, the very first word should be co-curricular, and then
Give it a title.
give it a title, and then maintain, and then the same for the second paragraph, athletics, maintain,
Okay.
so that everyone that reads the language will understand what paragraph is addressing what.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm
Okay.
right.
Move to approve the language with the recommended change.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The Vista easement request.
And so I was the one who questioned that. I'll now move to approve it.
I will second. And I'm glad we did, because that moved it over to the fence line and not up the middle of ours, where it could potentially inhibit where we might, if we ever wanted to build on that property, so.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the STEM Charter MOU.
So I added the language as far as how they will be charged, but because the hourly rate is dependent on which driver it is, I couldn't put a specific rate, so it's just salary and benefits for the driver for the number of hours, and then any overtime if it happens to put the driver into overtime that week.
Okay. I would like on the duration, it says from September 1 to August 30. I think it needs to be year specific.
Oh, so with
August
the-
1, 2024
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
or September 1.
I don't think we should be doing it at all. So I will throw that up there.
Okay. Can you give some support on that? I mean,
I just don't think it's our responsibility to be taking another entity's kids on field trips and
okay.
transporting them.
Are they providing
Because
liability?
this isn't going to cover liability on those
That's our
buses, the
liability.
student that paying for the mileage for the buses and for our employees does not cover the cost of the liability, the risk. I don't believe that we need to be doing this. So that's
How
my,
about if we put in a hold harmless clause?
nope, I still don't agree with it. So that's my opinion, so
Well, that's,
Well, respectfully sharing your opinion helps us get better insight with things we may or may not have considered.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you sharing that.
thank you.
and I understand what you're saying. I view it more as a contract issue, whether it happened to be with the school or some other entity. On occasion, we have contracted buses to community agencies, transportation during the summertime, other kinds of things. To me, it falls more into that kind of a category. But I do think there should be a hold harmless clause there.
Respectfully, I know that STEM apparently drafted this. Okay. And you did not have a legal look at this to see what our liability will be if there is an accident with another school's kids on our bus?
I did not. So I can send it to Megan if you want.
Yeah, what you're gonna
Input
find
from
is,
her?
you know, something happens while the bus is in transit, we have kids on there, we have the liability for the
Right.
transportation portion of it, but if something happens to kids or something of that sort, that's outside the realm of transportation liability.
Right. But if we're driving,
Yeah.
it's our liability.
You know, spelling that out might be helpful too.
I'm bringing this to you simply because this is something that has been happening since Dr. Reynolds was the superintendent, but it was never formalized. There was never any kind of a document, and we didn't even know that it was happening until we had this situation where we had the driver who was attempting to go to the STEM to pick kids up, and it was so foggy that he got high-centered. And so that's when we started tracking it down. So,
Well, I guess it kind of is, they were just paying us.
Yep.
That just,
we were invoicing them, they were paying
We were
us.
doing it out of the goodness of our heart.
It was kind of a gentleman's.
until we get sick.
Yeah, right.
Right, it was a gentle ladies handshake kind of a deal. And,
I moved to table pending legal review and whatever necessary additional language should be added to.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to our attorney, but I think I probably should also reach out to our insurance company.
Yes,
I can,
yes.
and
Absolutely.
Get input from both entities.
I'll second the motion to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Weirdish. We'll go back to. What's the next item? Because I can't get back to.
Next item is wireless access points.
Moving on to the wireless access points.
So we did the secondary ones, and now this is the elementary updating with the new 5-year license. It's all E-rate dollars. So it's just our kind of continual renewal process.
So since that's such a large contract, and we're suggesting that we're not choosing the lowest responsive bidder, you've given some explanation. I guess I'm wondering whether or not that's sufficient justification for not taking a low bid.
Well, and we were only provided with one that I saw. Of the bids. I can't even get my system back up going.
It looks like there are 4 bids.
But the actual documentation of the bids, we only got one. And it's not the one that was chosen.
No.
Yeah.
We can table that and have Jessica bring it back on March 5th. because they-
Yeah, but the actual documentation of each of them,
Yeah.
there's only that one.
Good one, yeah.
Yep.
So,
I would move to table.
Oh, slipped out. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. I'm going as fast as I can to get the system back up. Okay. You good? Yeah. Okay. Okay, moving moving on to discussion items. We have the LHS FCCLA Nationals.
So there's a team that's going to state. The advisor is confident that she will have a couple of kids place high enough to be able to go to nationals, and their parents have already talked about doing some fundraising. And so there will be no district expense. It's a national competition. We don't pay for that, but because they are representing the Lakeland School District, wanted to bring it to the board so that you're aware that they're traveling.
Thank you. And congratulations. It'll be exciting to see
I
how that
would
goes.
respectfully request once again that the acronyms be spelled out so we know exactly what that is. And we have the first name of an individual, but not the second, not their other names. So I don't know for sure who Sarah is.
She's the advisor. Okay.
Anything further on the first item?
It's just a discussion.
It's a
item.
discussion
not an
item.
action item.
Oh, not
Yeah.
action
She's just
item.
telling us that it's
Okay.
going to happen.
All
Yeah.
right, very good.
Okay, moving on to the winter drug testing. I am curious on the, I believe it's LHSS. We have 2 positives, 47 negatives, but then we have 1 THC and 2 nicotine. So that would, to me, be 3, or is it just 1 and 1?
It could be that you have one student who popped for 2 different,
Okay.
one person
One
may
THC
have been a
and
THC
one
and a nicotine. So it's
Oh,
the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay. 2, okay, I gotcha. I get what you're saying. Because I'm like, that adds up to 3 and you're saying 2. I don't understand this. Okay, so then, so we have 5 and, yeah, that's a lot. But it's all nicotine, which, any conversation we need to have on the winter drug testing? Moving on to the 4-day school week survey results. So according to the survey, it appears that the parents are in favor of doing a 4-day school week based on 1,237 yes responses and 608 no responses. I know from the last time Trustee Jones made a comment that he felt that a lot of the responses were from students, not actually parents. Do we have a concern that that's the case this time?
No, in fact, when I sent the survey out to parents, I specifically said to them, the board is interested to know just what the parents think right now because you are the people most directly affected by this decision. So please don't post it on social media. Please don't share the link with anybody. And I actually saw somebody had screenshot the survey and put it out on social media so that people were aware that we were asking the question. And somebody right away said, the superintendent asked you not to do that. So people they definitely read the email. So, and because the numbers aren't inflated, I'm not concerned that we have people who shouldn't be participating at this point.
I'm shocked. Just because the last time we did the survey, it was closer to 50-50, so I'm a little, I'm surprised.
It was actually 65-35 last time because the way we asked the question was hard, and if I could go back and change it, I would have, but it was, are you opposed? That was the 35%. And then there was a question, are you in favor of? And then that was when we were hearing from the state that they were thinking about if we went to a 4-day week, that we weren't going to get our facility money. So it was, are you in favor? Are you in favor as long as we don't lose money? And when you put those two together, those were 65. So it's been pretty consistent, actually.
Okay. But that was parents and staff. This was just parents.
Right. And yeah, I had staff say, well, where's our link? Why didn't we get one? So our principals are actually doing kind of an informal poll of their staffs just to see. I anticipate that percentage is going to be high, but
Again, with the negative or the positive?
just, I think they're going to be in favor of
Okay.
a 4-day week. We are getting later into the school year, and I feel like we need to make some decisions as far as what we're going to do about this so that parents can start making some plans. What I would like to do is at the March 4th board meeting under discussion bring what a bell schedule would look like for elementary, for middle, and for high school, so you can see that. Based on some of the comments that I've gotten from emails from parents who probably were the opposed side of this, the concern for a lot of them is childcare. So we would recommend, if we're going to do this, that we would have base open at a northern site and at a southern site for parents who need childcare on Fridays. And then we can also work with Jessica on what the busing would look like, so that you have kind of a better picture overall of what the day looks like for kids, how that works with transportation. And then we can have more discussion if there are additional questions that you want me to answer and bring back. But I feel like March 19th, we would need to have an action item where the board makes a decision about whether or not we want to, this is where we're going, to give parents opportunity to make some decisions. We could push that to April, and we could do some town hall, like Q&A kinds of things, but with all of the levy stuff that we're doing right now, that would be hard.
With all due respect, I really don't understand why this issue is even on the table at this juncture. It's a polarizing issue. We should be in a mode where we're laser focused on getting this election passed, and now we have another divisive issue that's laying out there in front of the public for people to take sides on and use as an excuse to vote yes or no on the levy. And I just think that it's wrong strategically to be out there with that kind of information at this point in time. I'm not saying at some point it isn't worthy of some discussion. Well, I question that too, but the timing of this is really, I think, inappropriate, and I don't understand why and it almost sounds like that ship has sailed. I mean, we're talking about, designing bell schedules and transportation schedules and all kinds of things. The board's made no decision. I just don't understand why we're doing what we're doing here.
This is what the superintendent brought to us. And she is asking for further direction.
Well, if you want further direction, my advice would be to put it on the back burner someplace.
Thoughts, Lisa?
I agree with Trustee Jones that the levy needs to be our primary focus. This is a cost-saving measure that we had considered. It's the reason I brought it back. just so that we either move it forward or we put it to bed, whichever way we want to go with that. If we put it on the back burner, which we can do, then I think we're putting it on the back burner and working through this during the next school year. I don't know how you, with the levy election in May, there's no way to pick this up again after that late date and try to get things in place for parents. So I am okay either way. I just know going into next year, even with the levy passing, we have to continue to look for ways to cut costs because we still have more staff than what we get from the state, and all of those issues still are there for us. And so just looking at ways to cut costs and not cut staff and not impact student programs.
Well, you can't go to a 40-week and not impact students. That's not a practical assumption at all, in my view. Anytime you make a wholesale change of that type, it's going to impact kids as well as their family.
I do think I think we have done a few things that are detrimental for our district in trying to get the levy passed. I do think the emphasis of a 4-day school week right now for this next year is not going to be viewed favorably, whether parents are for it or against it, in trying to pass the levy. What you've said is that you didn't want the 4-day school week in alignment with the levy because you wanted it to be a standalone matter on itself. Mm-hmm. The unfortunate reality, I think, is that whether it stands alone or not, it's going to be linked to the levy. So,
so we can look at it if we need to look at continue to look at cost-saving measures. We can look at it down the road if that's where we need to go. But
well, I don't think it would be inappropriate to contemplate what needs to go into a 4-day school week, what things are going to look like, but making it a priority at this point in time is probably not advantageous for us as a district. How that being said, if the levy is unsuccessful and we have that information that is a cost-saving measure that we're not behind the 8 ball on. If the levy passes and you still want to continue to pursue the 4-day school week, we're that much ahead of the game saying, here's more cost-saving measures we can put in place. So, right, but I don't think just abandoning ship is the right answer, but making this the forefront runner, I think is the wrong answer. So
we will push costs, but we will work to have our ducks in a row if that is something we need to bring back.
okay, that would be very wise.
Okay.
Board meeting locations. Trustee Jones, at the last meeting you asked to have the conversation about a board meeting roadshow.
Yeah,
So,
so to speak.
right. What?
Thank you for putting it on the agenda. And someone asked me whether you want us to action item or discussion. I thought discussion is probably more appropriate. At
Right.
this stage of the meeting.
Right.
So I would just bring it back as a discussion item. I do think outreach to the communities in the school district is important. We've kind of experienced that with what we've been going through
Right.
of late. The routine in the past, and I think I mentioned this before, has been 1 month at Spirit Lake somewhere during the year, 1 month at Athma, and 1 month at Garwood, as a way to get out into those communities. And those three were kind of spread out over the course of the year. I don't think it matters which months, particularly at what location,
Okay.
but, making the effort, I think, is the important part.
So would you like to see us at those three locations once or twice throughout our year, or just on a continual rotation basis?
No, once at each location during the course of each school year.
Okay.
We used to do October, January, and April.
Yeah.
Is what.
Okay.
Quarterly. One
Okay.
in the fall and then 2 after Christmas.
Okay. So, are we okay with doing that, given that the three of us are here?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea, and I do hope that that gets people to our meetings and we get more input from community and
Especially the northern California district.
If, I do know that from the journeys that we did have with the discussions with the failed levy, audio was challenging, video was challenging, all of that was challenging. So how would we like to address that being mobile?
We did buy a mobile sound system for the board, so we are prepared for
Okay.
that. So that part's taken care of. And I think that Maria's got the camera on the tripod pretty much dialed in and connected to the computer, so I do think we've taken care of that.
Yeah, I fully recognize, having actually dealt with it, that it's a little bit problematic to staff to be away from this office,
Right.
when certain issues might come up that make you get a quick reference to something here. But overall, it's doable. And
Absolutely.
you find ways to work around.
well, if it's only once every few months.
Once a quarter.
Yeah, it's not so cumbersome.
And the sound system that we got has wireless lapel mics, so we're not all passing around a corded microphone.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Sounds good.
Summary, can you take note of that and then kind of look at the calendar and see, we can kind of talk about where we might want to host the next meeting. Okay. Okay, next item is the College and Career Advisor funding. Okay. I would like to understand why the money we receive for college and career advising is classified as discretionary and not used for college and career advising. Because when the motion was made for the levy, the funding for college and career advising was put on the backs of the high schools. And I personally don't agree with that, given that we are given funding for college and career advising. So I don't understand why there's this disconnect of a line item that we get from the state of funding monies to where we then choose to make it discretionary, and now we are cutting high school budgets again that have already been, they've gone to the table, they've cut and they've cut and they've cut, and now we're telling them you need to cut $85,000 more each when we're getting money for college and career advising. I don't understand.
Yeah. So the only reason that I even had that on my recommendation was because at one of our workshops, I believe it was Trustee Grissom mentioned that that we're overstaffed with counselors and that we could reduce the number of counselors and use the college and career dollars to help pay for the remaining counselors. That's the only reason that I put it on there, because she made that suggestion. I don't know that it's discretionary, though. Our two college and career counselors are paid from those dollars, so they're attached to that.
At the meeting, when the motion was made for the levy, our CFO stated that it wasn't a line item, it was discretionary, because Trustee Grissom pointed out that we received $134,000 from the state as a line item, and CFO Grantham said, no, we'll use it as discretionary. And then within your recommendation was that we remove the 2 college and career advisors. My frustration is the thought that the concept that we keep putting these needs that we are funded for on the backs of the high school, I don't think that's appropriate or very good budget management. The thought that they've already cut their budgets and then they've cut more of their budgets and now we're saying cut another $85,000, even though as a district we're receiving those monies from the state. Granted, it's not the full 135, it's Ms. Paquette said it was 120 some odd thousand. Okay, it would be easier for me to sleep at night saying, okay, you guys, we have to navigate the 15,000, so y'all have to come up with 7, not 85. I don't see how if we keep cutting down the high school budgets, and that's the only place we're looking and we're cutting and cutting and cutting, what are we gonna have?
Yeah, well, again, the only reason that it was on there was because that was a suggestion at one of the workshops that Trustee Grissom had talked about. So that's why I put it there.
Well, and I made the suggestion that for the 85,000 from each high school, because I was under the impression and believed that the principals wanted to make the adjustments where they wanted to, rather than us saying this is the position that needs to go. So that was my suggestion, was the 85,000 at one of those meetings.
Because CFO, I think, actually suggested that we reduce the athletic, the 2 million.
Yeah, that was my
And that
original
was-
suggestion.
and Jessica
when I
said
brought
that we could
forth,
easily do
was
that.
to move the necessary funds from co-curricular athletics line item down to the other one in order to cover the expense of those 2 counseling positions.
Right.
And I think, you altered that slightly when the motion was made, which is fine.
Well, no, she left it as what it was, and then the motion was made to take 85,000 off of each
Yeah.
high school. But my frustration in that we're immediately starting to cut from something that we just finally figured out, this is the funding that we actually need to maintain these, and we're going to the taxpayers saying, this is the funding we need to maintain these, and now we're all of a sudden going to start pulling money away from it. I just don't think that's the right answer either.
Yeah, it's
But-
one of those situations, obviously, where something's got to give somewhere.
I understand that, but I'd really like to understand why our college and career funding that we receive is discretionary dollars and not used
Well,
for college and career
That's a
funding.
legitimate question.
And I'll ask that question, because I don't believe that that's, I don't.
What I think CFO Grantham was referring to is that when we get the money from the state, they have us code it into the general fund. So what she's saying is, yes, it is an individual line item. It just gets placed into the general fund where we then use that to pay for everything else.
Yeah.
So I don't believe what she was trying to say was that it's discretionary dollars. It's just the way we code it from the state.
Well, I think it would be beneficial to have CFO Grantham then address that, because she argued with Trustee Grissom on the fact that Trustee Grissom saying we have a line item that says $135,000, and CFO Grantham stood there and said, but we get it as discretionary funding. The frustration is, if we are receiving money for college and career advisors, we should be allocating that money for college and career advisors. And if we're not, and we are simply just discretionary funding, putting it in the general funds and making all the dollars fit where they need to fit, and then turning around saying we're going to keep these positions but we're going to put it on the backs of the high schools, I don't think that's appropriate at all. So I think there needs to be some more clarification and a better understanding of why we're treating the college and career advisor monies that we receive from the state as a line item as discretionary funding.
I put a note. So
Perfect. Okay. The next item is budget strategies. Trustee Dane asked for this to come on.
So I just wanted to talk, before we really get into our budget workshops, I assume we will do again this year,
Right.
as far as how we're going to do that. I would like for us to look at position budgeting, where we have an exact outline of exactly what positions we have and we are approving
Okay.
through the budget process. And if that needs to be amended later to add more positions because our enrollment is up or whatever, then we can do that through budget amendments and not end up overspent because we added a bunch of more teachers
Right.
when we didn't have the budget for it. So I would like for us to look at position budgeting. I know the Coeur d'Alene School District has an awesome, in their budget packet, if you go on their website, they have a really good outline of exactly what positions are approved in the budget process. So I would like for us to look at that. I'm not saying that that's what we're going to do. I'm just saying that that's something that I would like to look at doing. And then also a similar situation with capital items and projects. I looked through a lot of school districts have all of their departments and buildings come to the budget process with requests for capital items and projects that are approved through the budget process, and they aren't just, okay, this is our money for capital projects, and then we're going to come to you throughout the year to request these items. It needs to be done through the budget process so that it's set in stone. And yeah, we can have some emergency funding. We already do anyway,
Right.
for situations where if a boiler goes out or
Right.
a similar situation. But those are just done through the budget process. It's going to save.
a lot cleaner.
It's
Absolutely.
cleaner. It's more transparent. It's in the budget documents. Yeah, and if you have a big project that you want to do, there's no reason you can't come to the budget
And
with it.
Right, right.
So would you be willing maybe to sit down with CFO Grantham and kind of look at those quarterly documents and since you have that understanding of governmental budgeting and come up with like a template that we could use
Yeah.
for the process?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Instead
I'd be
of-
happy to.
Instead of a whole bunch of us sitting around the table trying to figure out what that might look like, you get too many chefs in the kitchen and we don't get the work done always, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that
Yes.
up. All
If
right,
there's an easier, better way to do it.
we should be doing it. All right, any dates for us to remember?
The State of Community luncheon tomorrow at 11:30. Policy committee meetings on Thursdays at 6. The next regular board meeting Wednesday, March 5th, and friendly reminder for an IBB meeting date.
So we don't have an IBB meeting date?
Okay, we just not.
Okay.
Said we were going to put that off.
In February.
Yeah.
We talked about an IBB workshop, so for February, so that we can kind of be ready to go. And I don't, maybe that's putting the cart before the horse if we're gonna look at this, if you're budgeting, maybe I don't know.
No, I think we should all still have,
Something
we should have a sit down and discuss things that we want to see happen. That way those that are participating in IBB have an idea of what the consensus, where they're going.
Board needs to have some general discussion about the
Right.
parameters that we'd like to work through as we approach it this year, and then that becomes narrower in focus as time goes along.
Okay.
So on that note, what are we thinking date-wise? Because we only have one more week of February. So we missed the February
We missed
date
the February.
if we don't do it next week.
Well, I'm gone the last week of February and
Could look at
first week
the-
of March.
second week of March.
Are you going on a boat cruise again?
So,
A riverboat cruise?
second week of March.
Second week of March is fine,
Okay.
just not on Monday. So we have long range planning.
Can we keep it Wednesday, just to keep consistent?
I'm okay with that.
What was that?
March 12th.
Wednesday,
Yep.
12.
That's a Wednesday.
Yep.
Could have worked.
Good deal, Lucille.
5 or 6?
6 preferably, or at least 5:30, but.
5:30, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Let's go for noon.
There, I like that.
Okay, so we'll go for 6.
What do you think?
What's that?
5:30?
It's just easier for Randy to get off work, be here by 6.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just asking. 6 is great.
Thanks. Okay.
All right, are there any input for future agenda items?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay. Bob?
Oh,
Okey-doke. I need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74206(1)(b).
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and we need to call a board member. Dave, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So we need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74206(1)(b).
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Yes.
Trustee Jones? Trustee Bain?
Yes.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, we've come out of executive session. It is 7:49, and I will entertain any motions with respect to personnel.
I move to place employee 2.19.25A on probation following completion of the formal improvement plan.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to if there are any motions for the trespass of individual A.
Move to approve trespassing individual A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And that concludes the meeting. It is 7:49.